Welcome back to Curious Comedy, a podcast made to inform and entertain, to enjoy and wreck your brain. Under name, I'm Tom.
I'm Jala.
And without further ado, let's get into it.
Yeah, we have kind of a special introduction. I think we already made one, which is not really usable, but it's up for debate.
Yeah, it is.
Maybe. Tom, this week we brought a special topic. Don't want to point any fingers, but I think someone came up with a great name, and to fap or not to fap.
Mm-hmm.
Elaborate. What is this episode
Gonna be about?
Indeed.
Well, I think that to fap or not to fap is just an interpretation of what Shakespeare really meant when he said to be or not to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think to be is to be in touch with your animalistic side as well. But on a more serious note,
I wanted to say it took us a couple of hundreds of years to really translate the original word.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you, as the master of English.
No. I've been. I had to endure a horrible movie that was based on the script he wrote for Romeo and Juliet. So I figured that I was able to make great artistic interpretations of his work now, based on a funny joke that I thought of. But
we all agree.
We all agree on. No, if you don't, then your opinion isn't allowed anymore. So, anyway, what we wanted to talk about a little bit today is the topic of masturbation. Because, yeah.
Yeah? Was this the best way? Okay, no, sure, go ahead.
Yeah. It surely was. So, There's lots of talk about it nowadays. There's the whole no-fap movement, which I'd also like to get into, pun intended. There's a lot of stigma around masturbation. There's lots of innovation in masturbation, and pornography is a big topic. So there's a lot of angles that we can look at this from. And I'd really love to discuss a little bit, see how we feel, and hopefully we can get some of your ideas as well. So,
maybe before we start off, I'm just curious. Maybe,
oh God.
No, just because you just talked about it a little bit.
It's like Sex in the Dark. I'm going in blind and I'm scared of what to expect here.
That was a little bit too much information, but I think it's a great analog.
Anal-og. Because it's in the dark, so you don't know which hole you're picking.
Nah. Are your suggestion? No. Oh wow. I wanted to. Never mind. Just leave it. Yeah. This is going so well. Great. So no. What I wanted to ask you, and I already know why you're trying to spur the attention to somewhere else. No, you did just touch upon the innovation within masturbation and porn, and I'm just so curious. What kind of innovation do you see within masturbation?
Use your imagination, I'd say.
That's limitless, indeed.
Indeed. So have, for example, vibrators, dildos, and sex toys of all shapes and sizes. So that was the first thing that I was really referring to, is that it used to be a carrot or a cucumber, right? That was basically what our tools were, or a pillowcase. I know the trick, ladies. And now we've basically shifted into the modern age, where we have vibrating, sucking, oscillating devices that are basically master engineered to receive an orgasm in the shortest possible amount of time. And on the other side, for people with a penis, we have flashlights, and I have seen 1 minute crafts of flashlights, which is a thing of its own. But you also, on the far side of the spectrum, we have like whole sex dolls and robots and stuff like that. So that was basically the idea there, the innovation aspect of it. And in pornography, I'm not sure if you've kept your eye on it, so to say, but there has been a lot of trends also coming up, and strangely enough, a lot of them are like things like I'm stuck or step sister. But if you think about it, I mean, I'm not agreeing here, but I think is the idea of something being taboo, right? It's not allowed, you shouldn't do it, and that's kind of what makes it sexy. And I think that is an idea that a lot of people can relate to, if not stepsister pornography itself. I really wanted to talk about that a bit because I think it's interesting. It's an interesting phenomenon, and I think the more people use pornography, the more they tend to watch more intense, rougher, you name it, types of pornography, things that are unexpected of a normal sexual encounter, especially for people that may not have had one yet.
Okay, now maybe before we take the deep dive, let me ask you on a personal note a question. You just talked about the innovation within pornography, but also maybe masturbation, and you had a whole almost assortment of different, let's say, tools. That was the name.
Sure.
Great.
And devices.
Devices, let's call it devices. That sounds tech savvy, right? That's great. So would you say that do you feel threatened by those tech savvy tools?
To be honest, answering honestly, I at first when I had a girlfriend that was interested in perhaps incorporating them.
Incorporating them? Using them, or
incorporating them into the bedroom, like while we were engaging in sex. I mean, she was using them on her own accord already, and
it almost sounds like it was a pre-planned strategy. Like she wanted you as her boyfriend. That was the first step. Then the second step is to have casual sex, but then the end game is really to bring and see how much tools you can bring to the bedroom and see how they work, right?
Just like a garage, but instead of just being like power tools and screwdrivers, you just have a collection of everything imaginable.
Yeah, I think that is what we call a dungeon.
Yeah, a dungeon, indeed, a sex dungeon. Okay, totally not getting off topic. You asked me how I felt about using those tools.
Yeah, I felt if you felt threatened. I asked if you felt threatened.
And I was answering. And yes, in a short answer, is that I think at first my idea was, okay, if it's helping my girlfriend orgasm and it's helping her have a good time, then I'm all for it, right? I should see them as a friend, not foe, because they're trying to achieve the same goal as me. But there's one feeling that I can't really shake, which is the idea that a tool, something that's inanimate, perhaps designed for pleasure, sure, is able to do a job more efficiently than I can do it. For example, like you have these vibrators that are specifically meant for like having a clitoral orgasm, and some women that struggle with orgasm and can use something like that and come in like a minute or two. And even when I put on my game face and try my hardest, it can sometimes take a lot more effort than that. In most cases, it won't be that quick. So in that feeling, it can make me insecure, and it can, in a certain way, make me feel threatened. Even though I would like to be supportive and to make sure she has the most pleasure, but at least for me, I have a lingering feeling of feeling inadequate.
Yeah, well, I share that. But would you say in general then that your sex life is improving by using more tools? Or would you maybe even, and there's a whole spectrum, right? But maybe black and white, then the other side would be to say, okay, one way of saying it is the more tools you use, the better your sex life is. The other way of maybe looking at it is saying, okay, if there is by not using any tools, it is the best, but it could also be a combination, right? So that you say to a certain level, tools are adding value, and from let's say 10 tools, the added value of those tools decreases, and so.
Yeah, no, I get you. I get what you're going for, but in a general sense, I think experimenting with tools, outfits, costumes, different things, right? I think there's a time and a place for it, and it can be super fun. But I think a big problem lies in the fact that, especially for women, I feel they start to rely on a vibrator or a specific sex toy and aren't able to climax or orgasm without it anymore. For example, I have known somebody in the past that was unable to use her fingers or anything natural to orgasm, and I thought that was kind of worrisome, because I think part of masturbation and growing into that is like feeling what you like and enjoying it and exploring yourself. And I think having a machine that does it all for you also makes sex less pleasurable for you unless you have that tool, and I think that's quite problematic.
Yeah, but is it in general true that by having access to more tools, women especially have more problems or reaching a climax?
No,
I haven't.
So I actually, interestingly enough, I put like a Reddit post and I asked a question similar to this topic to see what people thought. I got a few responses, and the general consensus seems to be that. For men, example, if we orgasm a lot, then for us sex is less pleasurable and it could take longer for us to come, but we won't enjoy it as much. And for women, it seems to be, I mean, there is a potential loss of sensation that comes with using vibration too much, but keeping yourself or arousing yourself and using masturbation works in a different way. Is that it's like. It's like keeping the motor running in a sense, and it will be easier to get hot again and get warmer. So it will make it easier for women to get into the flow again. It's at least what I have been hearing. But on the other side, I've also heard that just abstaining and saying, okay, I try not to masturbate, I try not to enjoy myself without my partner present. That can also really signify the pleasure and the attention and the heat of the moment vibe. So I think that's kind of the flip side or the two sides of the argument.
Okay. I must say I'm not with you on the same page. I think because let's say I feel almost what is the word? I'm searching for the right English word, but. That you are not enough of use, you would always say. Inadequate. But even stronger than that I would feel, for the sake of the thing, overbodig. So you feel like you are...
Useless.
Yeah, useless. That's the word I'm looking for. So that is something I think would... Therefore, I will argue against the point you just made by saying, okay, the moment that I have sex and the girl is using tools that, although maybe she would sweat more and be more engaged, and that would, let's say, heighten the temperature in the room, it would be compensated by the cold that I'm getting, right? So let's say that I think that I would be, so the more satisfied she is, the even more dissatisfied I am. So because indeed it's the feeling of not being enough of. I would. Okay, let me think about how if I'm going to tell this on a pod.
No, just keep talking. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, no. Let's skip this. But oh damn.
Gosh, you seem to be really stuck now.
So I thought it was super smart and a great example, but I think this is a little bit of a too concrete example.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Are we whipping out the towel here? Or?
No. Okay, wait. Let's. Okay, so let's turn it around. It would be the same for me, and I think now, especially girls can better grasp the point I'm trying to make, is saying, okay, I'm having sex with a girl, and I'm saying it doesn't matter really what kind of actions we are doing, but let's say we are enjoying ourselves, that I can find always room to take my phone and watch pornography.
Yeah, sure.
And if I would just say, let's say that pornography is a tool for a man to come faster, you can debate about that, but sure, in the same sense that a tool is that for a woman. So let's call your vibrator for a woman a little bit as the same as porn is for a man, right? then I think more people would agree that using tools cannot improve your sex life. Although maybe you are more satisfied, but being more satisfied in a sense of getting to your sexual urges is, I think, is a different, is something different than what sex should bring you, right? So for me, it's not about just having fun, but it's also a means of sharing love. How soft that may sound,
No,
and
I
so
don't think
by using tools, you would focus almost. It's almost like in a discussion that you have emotions that you would rationalize everything. For me, using sex tools is almost like getting the emotion out of the sex and make the focus on, okay, I should be satisfied as much of the time that we are having sex. And then I think you are not seeing the point, or you are forgoing the point, right? Because what I think should be central is and even has a higher priority is almost a feeling of acceptance. What sex is, and by using the tool, you are moving further away from that, because no, it is not enough, and therefore you need a tool. So on different dimensions, for me, using a tool would automatically mean that I'm not even having sex with you, by definition.
Not even like for a one-time
Yeah,
occurrence?
okay, for one time thing, but that is just for the try. But for the best, let's say if in my best abilities, what I would guess is that even that I've tried it once, I would think and argue that having no tools would satisfy me more. Even if, let's say, an extreme absurd case that vibrator would make that the sex is nicer with her for me. Even in that case, it would even it would bring me back. So then it's one step up, two back, because one step forward, two back, because like I'm saying, the
Emotional aspect doesn't get fulfilled as much.
yeah, and that is one. But by using tools, you are rationalizing or are saying, hey, it's not that we are moving away from the emotional part, but it is also okay to move away from the emotional part. And then I think if you look at the surface level, if you look at sex like that, for me is almost like a surface level, then for me there is no distinction between having sex with your girlfriend or with the woman you love, the mother of your children, and let's say having sex with a hooker. Because both are just pleasure oriented, right?
Yeah, I get you. If you take it into extreme, sure, I get that. It's tough because when I try to think of a situation, my incentive has always been, okay, I'm somebody that thoroughly enjoys giving pleasure to another. So when I was given the opportunity to enhance that by allowing her to bring a tool into the bedroom and then combining our forces, let's say, I thought it would be fantastic because I could play into my strengths, and your tongue and dick often are not at the same place because it's physically quite hard to do so. So there you go, you got your reasoning, but it didn't necessarily feel like emotionally detaching by using it. But I do take your point, because I feel that by using something inanimate which isn't closely related to you, I think there's something to what you're saying, because I feel it partially as well. The idea that you want to be as close, and this is like almost a sacred thing between the two of you, right? And it's basically despoiling it by allowing something else to interfere in that. So I do take that point.
Yeah, and maybe as an addition, I would even argue, but maybe that is a philosophical stance that you have, but and maybe we have a different opinion about it, and I think we have, but it's fine. You know why? Because you can also compare this to, let's say, would you try drugs? Let's say ecstasy. Then I would argue, and that is the same line of reasoning, that I would not try ecstasy because it would, let's say that I'm not having a bad trip, so it's working how it should, then let's say that I'm going to a party and I can enjoy that party now more with ecstasy in my body, then the next time I'm having a sort of a comparable party, I have a feeling that when I'm not using ecstasy, I have less fun chilling at that party. While in comparison to a situation in which I would never have used ecstasy on that first party, then the second party I don't have a feeling of missing something. And yeah, that's what I'm saying. That is almost a philosophical stance, because you can also reason the other way around, right? And I get that maybe you can do that, but for me, the same line of reasoning would hold, namely, I don't want to artificially reach some level that is not realistic with your natural resources, and that is with your happiness, or to the extent that you feel happiness with ecstasy, the same as the amount of fun you derive from sex when using a tool.
Yeah, no, I get your point. It's a great point you make, and to raise the counter argument is to say that indeed using ecstasy at a party, same example that you used, could enhance your experience definitely. And the next time you were be in a similar situation and without ecstasy, you could say, "Damn, last time it still really felt better, and I wish I had some because I had a great time, and now I'm not having as much fun." The flip side of that I would say is that people usually, it's kind of the same effect that alcohol has, which I think most people have tried, so you can perhaps relate to it better, is that when you have had alcohol for 1 or 2 times, you've had a good time, you were able to loosen up a little, have conversations with people, work on your social skills, maybe you weren't so awkward in dancing, you were able to let go a little bit more, and the next time they go, even if they don't drink alcohol, they're able to do that more easily because they experienced it during their time having alcohol. And the same thing kind of applies to ecstasy, in where people will have a great feeling of warmth and fuzziness and lovingness, are able to experience that more easily because they kind of get where it comes from and how it feels, and are able to, perhaps you could argue artificially, but are able to create that feeling again without the necessary drug.
Yeah, and I do think that is fair, but in my experience, I have seen rather the other way happening, and that is that by using, let's say, your alcohol example, that the moment you are drinking, let's say in the first case you're loosening up, right? Same case. Then in the second, because I think we differ then in that regard, that the next time you assume, and I think for you and the personality that you have, I know you personally, right? So I think for you it's true, but we're generally speaking.
Fair.
And I think in general it is like, and not 50-50 or 60-40, but like 80-20, 90-10, that you see that 90% of the people, instead of 10, is not on this second party where they don't drink, loosening up without the alcohol. No, what is happening is, now that they know how it is and how they would interact with alcohol in their body, that now the moment they are in the same position without alcohol, they feel the contrast, which induces them and give them incentive to drink. And if they don't, then it is not that they, like I said, loosen up. No, it's just that they feel even more uncomfortable, and so would leave the party even earlier.
No, fair. And I 100% agree that in most scenarios, definitely, I think indeed probably 90%, this is the case.
But why wouldn't that be the same for then a tool? Because then you would argue, and that to go back to the point, then you would say that by using a sex tool, and it would be comparable, like we just said, then by, let's say, when you let the tools coming into the room, the chances of not satisfying your girl, and maybe with the higher likelihood of losing your partner or whatever it is, there would be that story then, right? And that story would then hold. So then you could say, okay, so in summary, the more tools you have, the more satisfied she is, then she knows what she's missing when you're not using it, and so the likelihood of finding someone else who is able to give that, maybe without the tools, that urge increases.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. I don't think they're completely comparable, but I do think they're related to each other. I think it's because I think a lot of women already have experience with a vibrator, so it's not like you can unfeel that experience, right? And I think that's why it's also very typical that people will try to engage with them, and instead of just plainly saying no, I'm not doing it, I will refuse it, I'm not allowing it. It's also because it's already quite a normal standard thing. But I genuinely am also, I think, of the belief that it would be in your benefit as a woman to never have used a vibrator, or just that, because you will get into a situation or you won't get into a situation where you will crave that feeling and aren't having it, or are unable to have it. And I mean, on the flip side, this is the worst of the worst, right? But I have heard stories where women use it so much that the vibrating will cause nerve damage at some point.
Really?
Because your body isn't meant to vibrate that much. It's quite unnatural. So a person lost the feeling in their fingertips because of holding it so much. That's of course. I'm not saying
it's America.
Yeah, I'm not saying that most people will masturbate so much using a vibrator that they will lose touch, but it does kind of show the idea that it's not natural. It's not something that your body's used to. It's not something that your body is meant to cope with. It's an invention.
But the same is true for screens.
Yeah, no, of course, but we can also say that extended periods of screen time aren't also perfectly good for our eyes, and we know that much.
Yeah, but you can also argue that 10 years ago, looking at a screen was even worse than looking at it right now, because your body has learned how to live with it, right? So, comme ci, comme ça.
Yeah, sure, and I think there's something to say for that as well. However, for this example, I would still say that it is in your best interest to enjoy the natural resources that one body has to offer. And I mean, there's tools that are used to advance further, right? And I am a big fan of the idea of sexual exploration, and I think a lot of people have kinks. And I am a fan of exploring those, because there is just I think something deep inside that's like a desire, a fantasy, or something that is just really fun to explore. However, I think the same thing you could say with a sexual situation, right? Where just take a common one, headmaster and a student, whatever. It could be a hot scenario. Where there's a teacher, there's a student. Anyway, you get the idea. If you take that into real life, of course, it's a horrible thing. If you take it into the bedroom privately with your partner who you trust, it can be a fun thing to try out. But if you do it all the time, then it can become an obsession, or it become something that you will crave, or you will miss, and that can be quite problematic, I think.
The student will become the teacher.
The student will become the master, yeah, indeed. I think perhaps the answer is somewhere in between, like it almost always is that it's moderation is key.
Oh wow, that is a great conclusion. Okay, but if I take your point, and I would say, let's say, I know that's not fair, but for the sake of the argument, it is maybe to say, okay, if a vibrator or whatever tool is a tool for a woman, and we would say porno and watching pornographic material is your tool for a man. Of course, it can also be the other way around. But would you then say, if you advise girls not to use a vibrator, that to the central topic in question of our episode, that you would advise guys not to fap?
Yeah, so I've been quite interested in this topic for a while now. Do with that information what you will. No, but I think a lot of guys, especially in this modern age, will be introduced to pornography really quickly, right? and I think sex tools for women are quite standardized. Sex tools for men are less appreciated or normalized for males, but pornography definitely is. So we come into this place where a man discovers his body and the ability to, have fun with himself. And I think very quickly after that, we'll type sex, boobies, naked women into Google and have the time of his life, right? Because it's so easily accessible for people nowadays. And I can tell from my own experience that when I was a young wee lad, that when I first encountered it, I was super young. I was really young. I was like 12, I think, still in elementary school. So for me, it was a really big shock. And I remember telling my friend about it. And the next day he told me like, oh, bro, listen, I found a woman with a penis. And I was like, bro, what are you talking about? This can't be true, right? And then, of course, he showed me a transgender person or something like that. And I was shell-shocked, right? Stunned beyond belief that such a thing was possible. And I think from that perhaps innocent curiosity that I had as a young child, the incredibly overstimulating force of pornography really grasped me at a young age in a way that I wasn't able to fully content with it yet. And I think that has probably been detrimental to me in some sense, especially when I was a bit younger, because I started encountering it quite a lot when I was young and getting really engaged with it. And I didn't recognize the limits, and I kept pushing it further and further and further because I kept wondering what else was out there, right? If you're 12, 13 and you see a woman with a penis, you're like, what are all the possibilities, right? How far does the rabbit hole go?
Where's the alien?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure for Rule 34, right? Once you find that, then there's no ending it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I got really enveloped in it, and I also realized after a while that I was basically addicted to it. That I was watching it way more than I should be, at that point I felt like it. I was addicted by it at the point where I shouldn't have even seen it, which was a really weird place to be in. I definitely think that we should be watchful of young children, especially watching it, and making proper measures to prevent that from happening. I think sexual education is another thing entirely. I think there's a lot to say for that. But it was just like way too accessible, way too graphic, and the real restriction on any pornography site is, are you over 18? Click yes. Yeah, I mean, a button, really, that's going to stop a child that's seeing boobies for the first time.
No, sure. No, okay. Point taken, but to be a devil's advocate, if you would ask to show your identity card, no one would watch porn, right? So
yeah, no, I get you, but perhaps if your objective is to make people stop watching or stop overly masturbating, perhaps that's a good direction to take it in.
But we are here to pose questions, right? Not to completely answer them.
No. To take it a little further, because this is basically my personal experience, right? On the topic of should people actually abstain from masturbation?
As a god, you sure.
Yeah, no, I have no genitals. No.
Okay.
But I think for yourself, you should at least try to control that impulse, that urge that you have as a man. I think a lot of people, especially people that go into it, will just say, yeah, whenever I'm by myself and I get a boner, I will enjoy it, right? And I mean, fair enough when you're a bit younger, but that is also an impulse that is direct pleasure that you get from very little effort, and that's a dangerous thing because it's very easily addictive. So for that reason, I would say it's a good thing to practice abstaining from jerking off, fapping, but I think pornography in general is something that should be avoided. And it's a booming business for a reason, right? Because sex sells. Men especially are very visually oriented, and huge reactions in our brains can be measured when we are engaged with graphic content. It's also the reason that you, for example, the reason that you didn't say women watch porn and men watch porn, you said women have a vibrator and men watch porn, is because women aren't as interested by visual pornography. What they are way more interested in is, for example, written pornography or audio pornography.
They use their imagination.
Exactly, and they set the scene in their head, while men are a lot more plain simple and just we see it, we like it, it's good enough, or it does the trick. And so for that reason, you see a lot more men doing it, but it's a slippery slope. And I think regardless of how much you watch it and what you do with it, I don't think at any level it is in your benefit to be watching it. The only reason I could argue it for is educative purposes. But yeah, how much of pornography is educative nowadays, right? Very little.
I think you're just lowering the bar to watch it yourself, right? No, for real. No, I mean, you can argue that someone who is just sitting in class, elementary school, I don't know what age they get that, but
yeah,
then when your mind is not there, but you have to go to a class which is talking about it, that you know for sure that the next day, if you didn't, then a couple of your friends extended the research at home. Let's put it like that, and they will peer review you, and yeah. So and therefore you could also argue, but that is all the way around. But I want to. Because you are almost advocating like a messias, Messiah. What the best? What? Now I wanted to ask you, because before the last statement you made, you said somewhere in your story, okay, you don't have to watch it too much, and I wanted to ask you, when is watching it too much? So how many times a week, whatever. But then you concluded your answer just now by saying, so I would even argue that even one time is too much.
Yeah, the thing is the reason that I perhaps went on the even harsher side is because I know, like, the whole NoFap movement is basically because of younger people with porn addiction, and it's such a large number and it's growing, and so many men face it that I would almost go to the point, I say, enjoy things in moderation. It's good to have the experience, but if you see the amount of people that watch pornography and aren't able to stop watching it, or they stop but get caught back in that cycle, it's such a large number, and a lot of people are seriously trapped by it, like really, really addicted. And it's a destructive pattern of behavior. So because of that, it makes me, I'm inclined to say just don't watch it at all. However, I don't think there's necessarily something wrong with watching porn, say, once a week. I think that's reasonably fair. But I would say it's better to be able to use your imagination. It's better to be able to partially abstain. I would say ideally. Let's say what for me would constitute ideal masturbation behavior, right? Because everybody wants to know that. I would say abstain most throughout the week. Do it maybe once or twice a week, and when you do, use your imagination, because if you wait long enough and you really keep your hands clean, pun intended, your imagination will do the work for you, and if it doesn't, that means that you haven't waited long enough, kind of like that.
Okay, but would someone who is jerking off every day argue the same?
How do you mean?
That feeling or that urge is there? Is it not that urge is coming the more you wait, or the
Yeah, that urge is coming the more you wait, sure. To be honest, to a degree. Because if you stop masturbating for a week, you will have a huge spike in testosterone, and that will then diminish again. And this is scientifically proven. So
but then why then a week? Because then you could say if you just wait 2 weeks, you're
Yeah, because so I would say you should practice with it. You should practice abstaining for longer periods of time to train yourself to be able to function properly without expressing that urge. However, I have been a teenage boy. I know what that I know what that feeling is like, and it's hard to repress. So I'm not going to say you shouldn't do it at all, or you should be demonized for doing it, because it's a very natural thing. But you should learn to control it, and then you should learn to control it, and you should learn to enjoy it. But you should also learn to do it by yourself. In the same argument that you would say, I want sex to be natural, emotional, between me and that one person, and we have we share our souls, and we have an intimate connection together. I think the same thing, not that you and your hand should have it, but you should have it with yourself and with your body. And you should be able to know what you like, what you want, be able to use that, but you should also be able to control it and say, okay, I have this feeling, I am horny, I really want to do something about it, but because of I want to train my mental strength and my discipline, so I will abstain for now, and I will, make an arbitrary amount of time that I can stretch larger after training it, and then I will practice it. I think that is the best way to go about it.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with it.
No. Okay, so this is the end of the episode.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't really want to talk about it for another hour. So if you don't have a lot to add, I'm fine with.
Oh really?
Yeah. What do you want to talk about more? I mean, I can, but yeah.
No, I get you. I think there's just a lot to cover.
Yeah. I knew that this was going to happen.
Come on, I saved this for the end.
Yeah, great. But I know that if we don't stop now, then you have 10 in the end.
I can neither confirm nor deny such things.
Yeah, such allegations.
So, yeah, you actually got me. So I was the second I said it, I was like, allegations would have been better. Okay.
Listen, I was kind of serious, but because I see that you want to add something.
No, it's just it's never a bad thing to have a short episode. I mean, if it's concrete, compact, right? Why add unnecessary content? I was just hoping that we didn't miss anything that's of any real value.
You can have then it's just different discussion. But I mean, you can touch upon so many things. I would almost suggest for the audience. If you have how you say that, a question that you really want
answered,
then drop it in the comments, right?
Yeah, no, facts.
And then,
facts.
Then we can at least respond it on a later date. I mean, no, it's just like for me, and that's why I say I'm agreeing with you, because I can tell a whole story again, and where I just confirming the points you have made and not really contributing a lot of new points. But I think it's fair to have a fundamental discussion about do you have sex? Like when we're talking about sex, maybe for the sake of the discussion, this is maybe worthy to mention. I think it's useful to make a distinction between not between sort of fun, pleasure, let's say transactional, and so that is one group, and the other group is just love, emotional, passion. I would categorize it like that. And if you do that, I think that is, we didn't try to, at least in the beginning, but maybe to build to have maybe an even further discussion or in-depth discussion for the audience and their friends. I think that is maybe useful to do so, and say, okay, because then you have a different discussion, right? When we're talking about those things, like tools, useful or not, will it improve or not your relationship? Yeah, it depends on the category you're in. If you're having just fun with each other and it's transactional, then I'm not saying that tools will not improve your relationship. But if it's about passion, if it's not about optimizing pleasures, then I see some troubles, or we see some troubles in using tools.
No, I get you, but I would say the ideal sex is one where love and lust are intertwined, right?
Yeah, sure, but of course, but for the sake of the discussion, you give two extremes, and you can find each other in the middle.
Lovely.
Yeah, right?
Indeed.
I'm not saying that everyone should have threesomes, by the way, but...
No, 4 is fine too.
Yeah, I saw a plunging birth rate, so maybe if we can suggest something, it's alright to be pregnant.
Yeah, great. Have kids.
Have kids, right?
Yeah.
Don't feel maybe that's cool. Now we have
miss the pill.
Yeah, let's introduce a hashtag. That would be great.
Oh God.
No, but for real, and listen, I hear a lot of people talking about children. Is it good for the world? Don't let people drive you crazy. You
Amen.
should just get children. Now,
if you want children.
If you want children, sure you should. If you don't think you can handle it, or you don't think you think it is scary. I think we all think that it is, but thinking that you are not entitled to having children is just like one of the craziest thoughts.
Yeah, and to think indeed, just to build onto that, because I agree with you, to think you're being environmentally unfriendly or damaging the world by having children, stop it.
Yeah, if that was not clear, that was indeed the point. So let no one tell you otherwise by saying and arguing that your child is going to use airplanes that use CO2. Just let him suck a dick.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I think we reached our end. This was a bit of a short one. Nonetheless, I hope you enjoyed. Perhaps you enjoyed this shorter format. If there is room in your comment boxes, let us know. We'd love to hear. Otherwise, if we missed anything, you'd love to hear it. We are definitely prepared to discuss it. So please.
And we will do it in depth. So,
Yeah. Okay. I see how it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
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 Yeah. Okay. This is okay, guys. Thanks for watching. See you next week.
All right,
Bye.
see ya.